Bryan, when we look at the deep passing game, specifically in this game, I know that Mike McCarthy talked afterwards about too high shell and playing safeties back. And I had mentioned I thought the safeties were playing a little more than they had on tape. They were playing deeper. I specifically, Bryan, I don't know if you remember it. I mentioned it before you got a chance to watch the tape. I don't know if you saw it. The first play of the second drive, they wanted to go deep to Cooks. Yeah. I think he wanted to go deep to Cooks, and the safety rolled, and they took it away. But on the first drive, you saw it went, they can take a shot if they want. They tried coming out. It wasn't there. He had to check down underneath. But here's the thing is that when they wanted to take shots, they succeeded down the field. And so I felt like it didn't matter what scheme they were playing. I don't think you can throw your hands up and say, well, it is what it is. We're not going to be able to really push anything down the field because of the scheme, because I think you saw they had bad eye discipline. They were a secondary that had bad communication between the corners and the safeties. I think they were still vulnerable regardless of being prepared to play against it. And the Cowboys just didn't take advantage of it enough. What did you see on tape in terms of, do you think the Cowboys could have effectively taken more shots down the field against Arizona than they did?
Well, what I was worried about, Bobby, is when McCarthy in the postgame said, well, their coverage dictated that we had to take some more underneath stuff.
Yeah.
And then when you watch the tape, their safeties were playing a little bit deeper. Their safeties were playing. I mean, if you look at, and this is from Next Gen Stats.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this helps people or not, but Dak Prescott in this game, they ran 81% zone against him in this game. Now, I saw times where safety was back. I mean, they would have one safety up, one safety back, and then they would rotate it. Or one would drive and one would drop, and they tried to kind of disguise some things. Against zone coverage, Dak was 22 of 32 for 192 yards. Okay? When they played man against him, which was right around 16% of the time, 16.7 was the number. He was 3 of 7 for 57 yards. It was 1 touchdown, 1 interception is what he had. So, I mean, to me, that's kind of one of those things where, to me, when Dak is playing against man, he's usually pretty good. It's usually pretty good, and it just wasn't what it needed to. It just wasn't what it needed to be. From him, because he usually feasts when people play man against him. They're usually bringing pressure. But in this case, that just wasn't the case at all. I mean, if you want to do it, they break it down even further. In the third quarter, 60% zone, 30% man. Okay, he was 5 of 6 against the zone, 1 and 3 against the man coverage. Get to the fourth quarter here. They played 54% zone against him. He was 5 of 6. When they played man in the fourth, he was 36%. He was 1 of 4. And the one pass was the 32-yard pass. Was that to Lamb?
That was Lamb.
Yeah. So it's kind of strange for him in this game because he, like I said, he usually tears man coverage up because that means they're blitzing and stuff like that. But what's funny about this game, even with a compromised offensive line, how much did Arizona really blitz? They were more interested in playing Dak playing Dak straight up because they probably feared that they were going to have problems on the outside, with coverage.
Yeah, and look, I think that my thing is Catrell Clark is always in position and he doesn't finish plays.
Yeah.
Marco Wilson is a guy who gambles and misses. The communication of passing a safety or passing a guy off to a safety has not always been there for the Cardinals. So to me, it's even when it looks like it's covered, I feel like if you take the shots, it's not always going to play out that way.
Yeah.
And that to me was the biggest thing, was just take the shots. Trust your quarterback.
That's what I'm saying.
Stop handling your quarterback with kid gloves.
Yeah, I don't think McCarthy was. I don't think McCarthy was confident in his offensive line.
Now that's true. And look, I think Udoka.
I think that Mike McCarthy's game plan went out the window Saturday night, sitting in a hotel room in Phoenix, Arizona. That's where I think his game plan really went out the window. Bobby, if I could just follow back up. Man, we were talking about blitzing. Usually, when Dak has to face blitz, again, here I'm playing with numbers. I don't mean to give people tired head, but
no, it's good. It's good info.
No blitz. He saw that 78% of the time. He was 21 of 32 for 235. When he faced the blitz, it was 21.4. He was 4 of 8 for 14 yards. That's very unlike Dak right there.
Yeah.
Very unlike Dak. But it just goes to show you Arizona they were terrified. But it's funny with the compromised offensive line, McCarthy should have been more aggressive because it's showing that Arizona didn't blitz. You're worried about compromised offensive line, young guys playing, blitz, and the line not being able to handle it. Arizona's plan's like, no, we're not going to blitz in this game. We're going to make you, but Dak was good enough against the no blitz. But to your point, does that mean, did you take enough shots? I promise you, and this is like the last thought I'll have about it, Mike McCarthy's game plan, I believe, changed. Like I say, that Saturday night when they got to Arizona, when you guys got to Arizona, and he knew that Tyron Smith and Zach Martin and Tyler Biotish were not going to play. That's where I think that his game plan changed. And to your point, it might have hampered his thinking about Dak and Dak struggling with the way this offense is currently being run right now.
Before we touch on some of the defense here as we wrap up, before we get to the mailbag, one last question on the passing game.
Yeah.
How deep into the season do we get before we just say this is the offense and that they're not going to take shots down the field? Because I felt like,
well, see, I worry McCarthy's always going to use the excuse that coverage dictated we had to do this.
Max protect it and take a shot.
Well, no, and you're absolutely right. But this is my worry. And Aisha Morrison asked a really good question in the press conference about, in the West Coast offense, the vertical principles that you have. And she's absolutely right. At some point in time, you can't sit there and just continually throw the ball underneath, behind the line, 0 to 9. You can't just constantly do that. Teams are, they're going to make you drive the ball. And then what happens when they drive the ball? Holding, motion, something, a drop, third down. There's something always, when teams make you drive the ball like that, they're banking on something, where are the explosive plays? Arizona won this game because of explosive plays. Dallas's inability in the red zone killed them, but Arizona's ability to occur or to get explosive plays was really the difference in this game. Was completely the difference in this game. You know?
And I don't know, what is it going to take for you're right. Do you think it's just a built-in excuse for him?
I do. And Mike is the problem that Mike's up against. There was an era where you could say too high shell, single high, we couldn't do what we needed to do. Now people break this down, in media. Now we are able to get the all 22 and say, well, Mike, they really weren't. It wasn't a lot of cover 2 in this game. There was some single high stuff, but how could you not win on the outside? I'm watching the Arizona games, the first 2 games, and I'm watching Jalen Hyatt just run right through the Arizona defense and make a huge play with no problem. And I'm thinking, And we've seen the Giants, how inept they are on offense. We look just as inept on offense as the Giants did against us. And I say us being the Cowboys. It just wasn't. Now, running the football was fine, but you never could get in a lead where you could just run the ball and be fine. But I worry that Mike McCarthy is always, his excuse is going to be, well, coverage dictated it today. He'd stand up there and tell us, well, too high guys playing, single high guy playing. But Mike, hey, we watched the tape, sir. We're going to see.
He told us what the offense was going to be. When he was at Combine, I'll read the quote again. I don't care how much he says, yeah, I think it was a little taken out of context. This is what he said. I've been where Kellen's been. Kellen wants to light the scoreboard up. I want to run the damn ball so I can rest my defense. I think when you're a coordinator, but you're in charge of the offense. Being a head coach and being a play caller, you're a little more in tune. I don't desire to be the number one offense in the league. I want to be the number one team in the league with the number of wins in the championship. And if we got to give up some production and take care of the ball better to get that, then that's what we'll do. This is the offense to me. And I think it doesn't matter what the game. I think it matters who's out, who you're up against. This is what they're going to run. And if this is what they're going to run, they are going to have the same ending that they've had for 27 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really funny on Next Gen Stats. We were talking about the Malik Hooker and Jordan Lewis play. Yep. They when you start to talk about coverage by the nearest defender, they put the 69-yard pass on Malik Hooker.
That's not nice.
I know, but it's by the Cowboys' nearest defender. So if you look in the game, like Deron Bland, 2 targets, 2 receptions, 26-yard, quarterback rating of a 118. Gilmore, 4 targets, 2 receptions, 25 yards, a touchdown, 109 rating. Curse was 4 for 4 on targets and receptions. Let's
break down the defense a little bit just here before we go to the mailbag.
Sure.
What happened with the run defense? Was this a case of bad run fits, bad reads? I'll tell you the guy that I thought had a really bad day, and I mentioned this in the instant reaction. The guy there were a lot of guys that had bad days, but the guy that stood out to me that I consistently was like, why are you not in position was Marquise Bell. I thought Marquise Bell had a rough day.
I think Marquise Bell got caught. There was one time on the long run by Rondell Moore. The defensive line, it was Golston and Hankins were playing the 1 and the 3, the inside techniques. And right before this, they're literally standing up and then moving to their right in order to kind of like, okay, we need to shift. As they're moving, standing there, getting ready, the ball snapped. And now all of a sudden blockers are on them. We talked about the pin and pulls and stuff like that. All of a sudden the ball's being handed off blockers. And Will Hernandez is on Bell, like Bell is like trying to move, and Hernandez, the guard, is on him. And they've got Sam Williams is wide. He's up
Sam
the field.
Williams got way upfield.
Way upfield wide.
Had a clean run on Bell.
Yeah, and Bell could not get off the block. He was absolutely plastered on that particular play. So he really didn't have the opportunity to make anything happen there. It was very, very difficult for him to get off the block. So that was a problem. That was. I just think overall the linebackers, when you look at
Parsons was not great in run support in this game.
No.
Parsons looked a little confused at times.
Well, there were times when, like on a third down play, he's looking inside. You could tell he's trying to yell at Van Der Esch, but he gets a rush, and it ends up being Dobbs drops back, it hits somebody on, hits, I forgot who he hit, but he gets a first down, but you got Micah Parsons like palms up, like, okay, what do we got going here, bro? What do we?
Van Der Esch was trying. Yeah, he was looking at Van Der Esch.
There was a lot of communication problems in this football game.
Does that fall on players or Quinn?
I think, to me, with the one thing that Van Der Esch is generally pretty good at is communicating with everybody. And I wonder if it's a situation where calls got in late and now but with the head thing, the communication, it should flow pretty well. But they were a little bit on the run. The Arizona Cardinals had them on their heels the way that they played that football game last week. Just like say the 40 we talked about this. Arizona is going to formation you. They're going to scheme you. They're going to move guys. They're going to put They're going to put wide receivers in the backfield. We talked about all these things. Yeah. We talked about all these things. For the first half of that football game, the Cowboys on defense weren't ready to play. They just weren't. Second half they kind of got everything together until the 69-yard pass. Arizona they dialed up a nice play. They schemed it. They got it open. They put the safety in a bad spot. They put they put Jordan Lewis in a bad spot.
We get asked about it quite a bit, so I always like to do a recap whenever you've gotten a chance to watch the film. Obviously didn't play a ton, but how did you feel like Mozzie Smith played in this?
Yeah,
game?
Mozzie, it's really, he got the opportunity. There were 8 run snaps that he got, and he had a tackle on one on. So in the total number of plays that he played, there were 8 where he, that's really his area of what he needs to do. So
he's inconsistent to me, but I think he's flashing.
Yeah, but the thing about it was he was much better in this game, and he's gotten better at this. I'm not saying this to blow smoke up people's butts about it, but the thing that he was better in this game was getting off the football. Better. He's getting better at that. He's kind of understanding that he can't be the last guy off the ball. He's got to be the first or the second guy off the ball, especially with his nose right there on the ball. He's got to get up the field. But they did not play him a lot of snaps. But the 8 running snaps that he faced, he did have a tackle. He had a tackle.
Yeah, and I think if it was on that play, I can't remember if he got the tackle but there was one I remember he penetrated, blew the play up. There was I don't know if he got the tackle on that one or if he just helped blow it up. But I think he's getting I feel better about Mozzie right now than I have about whenever somebody throws out the Taco Charlton or the Tristan Hill name. I feel better about Mozzie right now 3 weeks in than I felt about those guys even by the end of their rookie seasons.
This is maybe this is a little misleading, but if you look at the number, and this is what's alarming about the way the Cowboys played the other day, Bob. And again, I'm just having fun with next gen stats. I've just got to be a member of this, and it's incredible. I'm not a nerdy number guy, but okay, Hankins was on the field for 20 run snaps, 4 tackles. Average yards per play on the run snaps were 7.5 yards. Osa Odighizuwa, 6.7 when he was on the field yards per snap. These are about to be some really bad numbers. Dorrance Armstrong, 7.5. DeMarcus Lawrence, 5.8. Chauncey Golston, 7.5. Neville Gallimore, 7.6. Mozzie Smith, 7.1. Dante Fowler, 8.2. Sam Williams, 16. Sam Williams was on the field for 3 run snaps. I wonder if it was after the touchdown they said, "Listen, we can't do this anymore." Yeah. But those were the yards. Those were yards per play in the running game when that was going on. There was nobody. The only one that had a below 6 on the yards per play or yards per run rush was Tank. Everybody else was 7.5, 7.6, 7.1, or 8.2, or 16. That's just a bad day at the office right there. That's a really bad day at the office.
You are listening to the Love the Star podcast. The Love the Star is an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.